Today, we're diving into the most incredible, complex, and frankly, amazing defense network on the planet, your very own immune system. It's this personal, microscopic army working around the clock to keep you safe. But what happens when that army gets its signals crossed?
And that, right there, is the big question we're tackling today. How can a system that's literally designed to protect you sometimes become the very source of the problem? So, let's get into it. Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll meet your body's guardians. Then, we'll get into what happens when that system glitches out. After that, we'll look at the medical toolkit we use to get it back in line. And finally, how we can actually train our immune troops with vaccines.
All right, first up, the basics. You can really think of your immune system as your own personal, highly advanced protection agency. Its one and only mission: to defend you.
At its core, it's just this huge, coordinated network of cells and organs. Its job is to spot anything that's not supposed to be there. We're talking viruses, bacteria, you name it, and take it out before it causes real trouble. But here's the thing. It's not just one simple system. It's more like a two-pronged attack force. So this system has two main branches. On one side, you've got your innate immunity. These are your first responders. They're super fast, they're generalists, and they show up to any scene ready to fight. And then you have your adaptive immunity. These are the elite special forces. They take a little longer to get going, but they create a custom-made attack plan for a very specific enemy. And this is the crucial part. They never forget a face.
And to get all this done, the system relies on some key players. You've got your macrophages. These are the eating cells, literally the cleanup crew that just gobbles up invaders. Then you have the T cells, which are like the battlefield commanders, coordinating the whole response. And finally, the B cells. They're the weapons factories, churning out these things called antibodies that tag enemies for destruction.
But what happens when this powerful, well-oiled machine starts to malfunction? Well, that brings us right to our second section, where the system either has a massive overreaction or, tragically, starts to engage in friendly fire.
So first, let's talk about the overreaction. Anaphylaxis is the most extreme allergic reaction you can have. It's when the immune system sees something totally harmless, like a peanut or a bee sting, and mistakes it for a deadly threat. It launches this all-out, overwhelming attack that can be fatal if you don't treat it immediately. And when anaphylaxis kicks in, time is everything. Immediate action is critical. The main tool for this is an epinephrine autoinjector. You probably know it as an EpiPen. It acts fast to reverse the reaction's catastrophic effects on the body, which makes it an absolutely life-saving piece of equipment.
Now for that other glitch, friendly fire. With an autoimmune disorder, the system's targeting goes horribly wrong. It completely loses the ability to tell the difference between me and not me, and it starts attacking the body's own healthy tissues like they were the enemy.
And this friendly fire can show up in all kinds of different ways. If the immune system attacks the joints, we call it rheumatoid arthritis. If it goes after skin cells, that's psoriasis. If it targets the thyroid gland, it's Hashimoto's. It's just a wild example of how one single, fundamental mistake, attacking yourself, can lead to a whole spectrum of different diseases.
So if our own system is the problem, how in the world do we fight back? That's what we're talking about in our third section. How medicine tries to tame an immune system that's gone rogue.
For autoimmune conditions like RA, one of the key tools in the medical toolkit is a class of drugs called DMARDs. Now, these aren't just painkillers. Their goal is much bigger. They aim to actually slow down the disease itself and prevent more damage by essentially turning down the volume on parts of the immune system.
Okay, and this brings us to something that is absolutely critical. A safety warning for one of the most common DMARDs, methotrexate. I need you to listen closely here. This drug is meant to be taken just once a week. But a surprisingly common and incredibly dangerous error is when the instructions on the bottle mistakenly say to take it daily. So the rule here, and it is vital, is to always double-check that prescription. For methotrexate, it has to be weekly, not daily.
So we've talked about taming a faulty system. But what if we could train it ahead of time? And that's our final section. using vaccines to get our immune defenses prepped and ready for battle.
You can think of a vaccine as a training simulation, like a flight simulator for your immune system. It safely introduces a harmless piece of an invader, an antigen, which lets your special forces, that adaptive immunity we talked about, study the enemy's playbook, come up with a plan, and build a memory of it, all without you ever having to get sick from the real thing.
Now, this training happens in a couple of main ways. Live attenuated vaccines use a weakened but still living version of a virus. This gives a really strong, long-lasting immune response. Then, on the other hand, you have inactivated vaccines, which use a killed version of the virus. They're super safe, but the trade-off is you might need booster shots down the line to keep that immune memory sharp.
And this technology is the reason we have powerful defenses against diseases that used to be just devastating. From childhood vaccines like MMR to the yearly flu shot or even the HPV vaccine that can prevent cancer, immunization has been a total game changer for public health.
But here's the catch. For these training programs to actually work, the materials have to be handled perfectly. It turns out most vaccines are incredibly picky about temperature. They have to be kept in a super precise cold range, usually between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius. If they get too warm, or if they accidentally freeze, they can become completely useless. It's a huge logistical puzzle, and getting it right is non-negotiable.
So, we've seen the immune system as our guardian, we've seen how it can glitch, and we've looked at the tools we use to tame it and train it. It really is our greatest ally. Which leaves us with one final thought. What's next? What's the next frontier in learning how to support this system? Will it be personalized medicine? New ways to fine-tune our response? The user's guide is constantly being updated. And what comes next? Well, that's what makes this all so exciting.